Chapter 33. Fove, I know what you're asking, but I don't think you know what you're asking. I'll do whatever I can, but I don't know if we can do that, Rebecca said and bit her lip. If space is a problem, I can pay for an extension on the house, or put another room down in the basement, Fove suggested, and Rebecca blinked her eyes rapidly several times. Fove, you know that's not why. A girl like Usagi is going to need a lot of help. She'll need a therapist at the very least, probably a whole team of them, I don't know. And you're talking about taking her out of the only life she knows and plunging her into a world where everybody and everything is different. Not just our looks, but she'd need an education and probably a lot of medical care. Who knows what else? I want to help, but the implications of it all are huge. Maybe more than we can handle. I see that you mean well, and I'm so proud of you for it. But you can't fix the whole world, no matter how much money you have. I'm not asking to fix the whole world, just one person. Fove answered immediately. I could see a clash of wills was starting to unfold between mother and daughter. Not even that. People fix themselves. All anyone else does is give them the tools. Rebecca reiterated, and you're not capable of doing that. You're her age, not her therapist, not a doctor. I don't want to see you taking on things you have no business worrying about. I won't see you catch fire trying to put someone else out, Rebecca answered, but Fove was not finished. Then let's get her the tools she needs. I'm just a kid, I know. But I know what the right thing here is. Just let her stay for a little while, with all the footage I'm getting. As soon as Teresa is done splicing it all together into something watchable, I think we'll be able to get the whole damn world interested in this, Fove answered. And Rebecca chose that moment to change the subject. You're not streaming live? She asked. Fove shook the drone lens left and right as if she was shaking her head. No, the signal isn't good enough. Everything is a little bit behind. I almost ran into Usagi before. Besides, there's lots of non-story bits. Non-what? Rebecca asked. A befuddled look crossed her face. The boring stuff. Stories are just life with boring stuff cut out. The walking, the bathroom breaks, watching Bailey move every single table. I'm getting everything onto the single drive storage, and I shared access to Teresa. She's got her media people chopping it up into story form. Fove's voice on the audio was such that I could almost see that cat who swallowed the canary look on her face. Fove, what did you offer to Teresa? Rebecca demanded. Nothing. Just footage rights in exchange for a blank check on whatever needed doing later. She must think what I showed her was pretty good, because I've never seen her nod so fast. The only thing she said was to hold off until she could talk to some other government people. My guess is... In the first edition of this work, Fove's answer was left off, because she guessed correctly, and the material was classified by mutual agreement of both worlds. It was only after the fourth edition that the material was declassified. The answer was that sites like Chicago Area did indeed exist in scattered dead zones around the world. Siberia, the border between China and Mongolia, a few scattered islands off the coast of Japan and others, all forgotten in the post-war years of desperation, or exterminated during the same. While nobody knew it at the time, Fove guessed. Teresa's worry was that in some of the more isolated places, a sudden reveal with no plan could lead to untrained civilians searching for them and doing who knew what kind of harm. Nor was it lost on us that people like Wolfbeard still existed, and might do anything to snatch up someone like Usagi if they knew they were around to be snatched up. All things considered, while immediate help might come for the residents of Chicago Area without a prepared and planned response, more harm than good was inevitable. I understand. Now, Fove, apply that concern to Usagi. I won't let her suffer, but I can't make a promise like what you're asking. You have to think this through, not just shoot from the heart. Rebecca answered, and I didn't have to see Fove to know that her mother's counsel was hitting home. But I could have just as well been her as me. She just had bad luck. I never had a sister before, and I thought... Fove stopped when her mother put her hand up over the lens of the drone. We won't leave her to be bait. I'll do whatever I can, and maybe we can give her a better life. If I can take her out of here and Teresa is able to galvanize some help, maybe we can do something. But for now, I just have to focus on finding out what is wrong here. Okay? Let me focus on that, and we can talk about Usagi's future when we've assured she can have one. Okay? Rebecca asked. But it was not asking. Fove had given way. All right, and Mom, she said, and Rebecca looked up from where she was just refocusing on her equipment. Yes, Rebecca asked. I love you. Come back safe, okay? Fove asked, and Rebecca gave a determined smile toward the lens. I will, Rebecca vowed. And successful, too. We'll figure this out. The drone zipped out of the room and I saw it fly past the windows of our upper floor. It was fairly obvious that Fauve was trying to get footage of the city itself, and some of the wild creatures there. Perhaps she was getting the light talker on top of the roof. I had no way to know, but whatever it was she was doing, I was confident it would be worthwhile. Found families. It's such a strange alien concept, yet so delightful so readily, that it was a wonder it only seems to have been invented on Earth. No other intelligent species has done it before to the best of my knowledge. I suppose you could argue that Adlamacans were now doing it, since I made the walkers into my family as much as they'd made me part of theirs. And now Fauve was trying with Usagi. I was at first surprised at Rebecca's reluctance, but that conversation told me far more than I think anyone would have realized at first hearing it. The trauma of just existing, and being an afterthought to her own tribe, would have left Usagi with many developmental scars that are not healed by a hug and a warm bed. The ease with which she threw herself into danger said a great deal about her society, slicing open her own skin to draw creatures to eat her, knowing that the very people she was helping would barely mourn her if she died, because she barely mourned anyone herself. It could not be good for her mental growth and maturation. Could she come to see an adoptive family as family from her side? Or would she grow up into adulthood expecting that she would simply have to be useful to the walkers if she wanted food and comfort? As badly as I felt for her, I could not say I didn't understand Rebecca's hesitation. After all, what she said was true. She would do her best, I was sure, but sometimes even our best is not exactly what we want. Chapter 34. The rest of the day was like that. The little collective of rabbity folk that called themselves the Long Steps made themselves comfortable in the building. There was barely an hour when one of them wasn't suckling on what I believed was polonium-infused moss or stuffing their cheeks and chewing it. Byron, Bonnie Red, and Bosun vanished for several hours, but when they returned, it was to the disbelieving gasps of the little clan. The cause of their disbelief was that they carried a pelt of black fur that ended in a lion head the size of Bosun's torso. How they brought a brute like that down? Well, I could never do it. But a trio of elite modified soldiers? I could not help but think that if everything went smoothly but the Long Steps and the other tribes lived on as they had for centuries now, there would one day be stories of 3 mighty hunters, aides to the gods who saved their tribes and brought down a monster. It's strange the power of stories in the human mind. With the advent of written literature and the ability to keep precise records, you would think the importance of a good story would have diminished. But it hadn't, not in any corner of human culture I ever found. The stories we heard from Usagi had shaped the Long Steps and all the people like them, right down to the title of manager. I reasoned that these were various little office leaders and ordinary people who had prepared for disaster but otherwise lived normal lives. Then, when disaster struck, the ordinary office manager, fast food manager, store manager, and so on were forced to become more than ordinary, and they became legends. Now here we were, and I could not help but feel the tingle on my skin as a new story was formed in the history of the people of Chicago area. The gods who descended from flying metal to treat the sick, the warriors who defended the little band and brought down a monster, the flying Macha-in that carried the voice of a goddess from heaven to a chosen orphan girl who bravely risked herself to act as a guide for the gods who walked the stars, and the furry mother who sought them out and brought them to the tribes. It was humbling, in a rare sort of way, to realize that we were going to matter so much to people who had so little. Listening to Bosun and Byron and Bonnie Red tell the story of the hunt down below to Tuco, and then add other stories of their lives before the present, things the Long Steps had not even the words for anymore. Some anthropologists would say I was getting too involved, but to them I quote my professor, "Everything is an experiment." And this included me, and how I responded to these curious lives in turn. I wish I could say I was more useful in the present. I could do little but move tables and clear debris, but I consoled myself with knowing that I would be able to do more through my embassy later. If Dlamius offered to jointly support the Earth government with some extra supplies, the goodwill would go a long way toward formalizing trading relationships. Plus, the same infrastructure established for giving aid can be applied in trade. The dead zones of Earth might make excellent hubs for holding Dlamacen goods for transport all over the world. I admit, my classmates and my professor would later criticize me for not giving them notice of this, but I think posterity will forgive me for putting my planet first. After all, we were closest to Earth, and as the greatest superpower in the galaxy, rivaled before Earth only by Kawik's people, it only made sense that we normalize relations with the new rising predatory species first. I suppose I could be a little greedy, but I also wanted the leverage of status over the embassy if ever I needed them again. The more useful I was, the more debts I accumulated from them that I could call in later. But most of that was in the back of my mind. I could hear abundant tears and cries of happiness as the long steps were fed out of the heavy rucksacks that our military escort carried. And I could smell the cooked rat, which made Dlamison rations look like a human 4-star restaurant by comparison. But strangely enough, neither Usagi nor Fove's drone were close at hand. A strange thing, perhaps, at least enough so that after I finished helping Rebecca, I made my excuses and left her alone. When I came down into the lobby, I found Bao chatting calmly with Tuko, who was updating her on communication efforts. Power makers come in 6 days. They walk the long way because of the Black Lions. A safe path is scarce, and they are slow from sickness. Red Spear comes by tomorrow. All surviving tribes come in between. Some more, some less. We might be able to speed that up if we pick them up by shuttle. Bao trailed off when Tuko frowned. But I know they won't do that, so I guess we'll just have to wait. We'll make it work. It might take time to work with the samples we have. We'll provide you what food we can, but please don't eat too quickly. What I have available might not last for long. Tuko bowed his head deeply. Furry Mother's will is honored. We will eat enough to survive and let you do your rituals. When it is done, we will be thankful. If we lose a few, then it cannot be helped. Bao squeezed the old man tight. I'll do what I can to make sure we lose as few as none. I promise. Tuko returned it, much to my surprise. Given their treatment of children like Usagi, I found it difficult to sympathize with them as much. But perhaps that says something about how I'd bonded with Fove before all others. Or perhaps it says something about how my own way of thinking was changing. Bao saw me, and I knew she was all but reading my thoughts. She traded a few quick farewells with Tuko, who went to join the others eating what they had, and then addressed me in our language. Don't judge them harshly, brother. They are case-hardened to loss. They lose so many young. Their hearts are not dark. Their hearts are just numb. Bao's heart seemed to be anything but numb, and I tried to understand. I did. I told her as much. I try. But it is hard. Usagi reminds me of Fove, and hearing her speak so lightly of her end, and casually risk herself because she feels like it doesn't matter if she passes, it is a lot to bear. They are few, and they're broken, but they're still good-hearted. Tough choices, tough losses. It makes me think of Hodlamius. Bao answered me in return, and I could see her thoughts had taken the same track as my own. But, I said, this is not Dlamius. Just don't do anything that will make it hard for me to keep my promise to you, sister of mine. Keep your head about you, or who knows what might go wrong. She inclined that head of hers toward me. When we met, I thought you were weak, soft, undeserving of the chance you received. Now I can't think why, Bao said and extended her hand toward me. I stared down at it. I felt nothing when we met. For any unintended harm to your life plans, I apologize. And as for now, I'm glad to know you, I said, and clasped her forearm. Just then, we heard the loud hum of the shuttle overhead, and instinctively turned to look toward the window, just in time to see Bosun and Bonnie Red chasing after a stick that was still in Byron's hand, as he had not actually thrown it. All right, enough. Let's go see if we can save these people. Agreed, Bailey? Bao asked. Agreed, I said, and we dropped our clasped arms to go out and greet the ship. Chapter 35. I still had a mind to find Fove's drone and to find Usagi, suspecting as I did that finding one was finding the other, and as it turned out I did not have to look so hard. Usagi was rising from a seated position on the shattered remnants of a wall, near where the pinned skeletal arm of a long-dead unfortunate remained in place. The drone Fove was piloting was in the midst of a buzz of conversation. She seemed fascinated by Usagi, and the two were getting on with shocking ease despite their vast differences. I should know better to be shocked by the human capacity to bond, but I hope that never changes. It's always such a delight to see. Usagi dropped the little snack she had in her hand when she saw the shuttle zooming overhead. It definitely was Dlamison, but it also definitely wasn't the one we came here in. Unlike the small one, this one came in 2 pieces and could hover long-term. It was a detachable model that could connect with others to form a singular distributed power and transport network between the two through connecting tubes. This was almost more shocking than the ease of Fove's bonding with Usagi. The reason it was shocking was because this was an absurdly advanced design that I was sure only our military was using, and Bonnie Red hadn't been part of our military in over 50 years. Bonnie Red's voice reached me a moment later. "You like it, landlubber?" she asked while waving the stick triumphantly, smacking it rhythmically into the palm of her hand. I looked past her to see a half-laughing, half-wincing Byron, rubbing his manly bits while Bosun huffed and almost doubled over. I mentally winced when I figured out how Bonnie Red got the stick, and I admit, I think Byron kind of had that one coming. Given that he had a half-cracked smile on his face despite his flushed cheeks, evidently he agreed. "Ah, yes, but how?" I asked. Lamius misplaced one. "Salvage rights made it mine. It took some doing to make it work with the Red Spark systems, but now we use it for short supply runs, medbay use. It's a mighty useful tool. We named it Game Changer. When I get me enough ships, I'm going to outfit them all with these shuttle types. Then if there be a place I can't sail, it's not been found yet." I could see what she meant. Those small ships were nominally just shuttle class, but they had their own faster-than-light drives, and the different sections could function independently. I didn't know much about firepower, but Lamisons loved firepower almost as much as humans, so it wasn't hard to guess that they probably had dual power routing and all kinds of other capabilities. If Bonnie Red could captain a fleet of ships with these as impromptu escorts, she could search any planet she wanted for resources or plunder, and probably fend off anything less than an armada of full-blown warships. "I wish you luck," I said, dumbstruck as the elevator shaft descended. "Aye, and I'll accept them wishes now, lad. Get what you need. It looks like my part in this story is about done, so you go get to it. I gotta go see a bunny boy about a stick." In any other circumstances, that would have been an unbelievably nonsensical sentence. But here, now, and seeing that there were a cluster of rabbity children waiting for the outlandish captain and clustered around the giant soldiers of our worlds, it made perfect sense. Bao was quiet through all that, though I could feel her curiosity and interest coming off of her like sweat from a hard-working human. "You've made some strange allies and friends," she remarked as we came closer to the ship elevator. "Good ones. I think strangeness is just an added benefit. What do you expect out of an outlier?" I asked, and my tongue lolled out of my mouth as I cocked my head at my sister. She wagged her tail a little. "I suppose that," she replied. "Strange as this world, this place, these people are, I can't help but like it. Home is so rigid, dead inside. Even here, even—" She stopped and gestured toward Usagi, who was still chattering with Foves as they headed toward the pickup point, with the nearly dead. "They're more alive than we've been in a long time." I kept my thoughts to myself about that. There was no reason to trouble her with my view. Instead, I focused on the immediate, glad we had the sense to speak in Encanti, at a pitch the human ear could not pick up. "You have some thoughts about what you're going to find, I assume." Bao didn't hold back her answer. "Humans have an unusual number of vestigial organs and bits and pieces, not to mention about 8% junk DNA. There are two possibilities, both with the same end result. Either they were engineered to clean up the radiation either before or after the war, or they evolved resistance. Some vestigial part of them was repurposed or unused DNA was activated." "Which one is better?" I asked. "Neither, really. The fact is that they seem to need this stuff, and I have to figure out why. I think we're going to know a lot more when we get somebody on a table. But I'm a geneticist, not a medical doctor. I've got my limits. And I don't know much about human biology beyond the basics Axlith published decades ago, and the free public materials I could get a hold of." Bao's tail stiffened and became bushy. I could feel the tension she exuded despite her attempt to remain optimistic. "You know, there's a saying here on Earth that I'm very fond of. I don't know if you've heard it," I said, and Bao, intrigued, cocked her head at me. "It goes fuck around and find out. I don't think it's quite meant for situations like this, but I think we can repurpose it just this once," I said. And by then we reached the tube opening out of which the Dlamison medical officer stepped. "I think we can," my sister said, then broke away from me and pushed through the little crowd of rabbity humans to go get started doing exactly that.